I'm super ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I want a relationship.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Doesn't mean it's 100% true. They could be lying to themselves or to you, right? But then you get into the able, and then it's like, okay, but is this person actually able to show up for me, right? Are they consistent? Are they able
Yes.
to co-create the kind of dynamic that I want in a relationship? And that's something that you have to just be honest with yourself about. And again, not think that like, but if I'm just amazing enough, then they're suddenly going to like change and transform. And now they're going to be able to communicate. And, like, is there progress? Like, does that appear to be happening? Or is that a fantasy that you're holding on to? Right.
Hmm.
And then the willing piece, that's the part of like, they like you, they're into you, they're putting in effort to move things forward with you. And sometimes they're all willing and they're ready and they're not at all ready and they're not at all able. And that can be really confusing, right? Right.
Yes.
And so it's like, well, why is this person pursuing me? Why are they spending all this time with me? They know that I want a relationship, so that must mean that they do as well. A more empowered approach to dating is to live in reality and to really understand like, oh, actually, if I'm looking for a committed, healthy, committed, fulfilling partnership, if I'm looking for that true love relationship, like all of these things need to be aligned. They need to be ready. They need to be able, and they need to be willing. And I also need to be all of those things.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to welcome our guest, Francesca Hogi. Francesca, I've been looking forward to our conversation for weeks. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Robin. I'm so excited to talk to you. And you're the first person who I'm doing an interview with who's actually read the book. So this is exciting.
I what?
Yeah. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really extra exciting for me.
Have you been receiving feedback from like friends, family? Because Francesca, I have to tell you, I loved your book. And I read a book a week, like for work, for my job, and with all the experts. I mean, I read amazing books with all the incredible experts that we have the pleasure and privilege of interviewing each week. But I'm telling you, Francesca, this is a rock star book. I loved it so much.
Oh, Robin.
I really mean that. And so did my best friend, Kirsten. So she and I both read the books and then we talk about it. And we're like, what did you learn? And, we go back and forth. She's single, so we've got to talk about her during this and how she's applying your wisdom.
Amazing.
I'm going to hold up your book. So it's an excellent book. It's called How to Find Love, Unlock Your Romantic Flow, and Create Lasting Relationships. It's just so full of, there are definitely some amazing skills. And I like the fact that there's room for people to do some retrospection, of course, within. And I just think your perspective is so like, it's on point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing in this world to help people find love, Francesca.
Thank you. And same to you. I mean, listen, you know how you really have to be so mission driven to do this work, like.
Isn't that the truth? Oh, it's true.
It's so true because it is so hard. It is so hard. We really like a challenge.
Yeah, we do. We do like a challenge. That's my life, man. It's just full of challenges. And a lot of joy.
Yes.
There's a lot of challenges. So, Francesca, we have a lot in common. And you were working as a lawyer. I'm definitely not a lawyer myself, but you and I both have experience working as matchmakers. So you, through the Matchmaking Institute, right?
Yes.
So you became certified through the Matchmaking Institute. So did I.
I love it.
In 2013, the same year.
Oh my God. How did we not know each other?
I actually don't know because, I didn't spend a lot of time in New York. Yeah. I would just like to hear your story before we dive into your book around how you transitioned from being a lawyer to a matchmaker and now love coach. Because
Yes.
I actually found in my business too that matchmaking wasn't for me. Love coaching was.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear your take on that.
Yeah. I'm sure like you, like I always had a real focus on romantic love and relationships, really my whole life. I was a romantic child. I dreamt of growing up and falling in love and, and having great relationships. And then once I realized I kind of grew up and I was a bit of in a way I was an early bloomer because I was so focused on romantic love from a young age. But I was also a late bloomer because I didn't really properly start dating until I was in my 20s. And so when I started, and I was a young lawyer in New York City, and I was like, I don't know how to date. Like, I literally don't know how to date. Like, I really want a boyfriend. I really want a relationship, but I don't know how to make that happen. And luckily, I was able to have the perspective of like, okay, I think there's just a skills gap here, basically.
Right. Good
Like,
for you for recognizing that.
yeah. And so I really set out on this mission to teach myself how to date. So I got on Match.com because, this was like, this was like definitely pre-app. This was years and years ago. And I just started going on dates, and I just started, realizing like, okay, first I was being really open and I was saying yes to a lot of people. And then I was like, okay, now I can start to refine it. So and then it was like, okay, now I know how to get a first date, but I'm not getting asked on too many second dates. And, just kind of seeing at each stage, sort of like there was a kind of a new little challenge, that was arising, and, recognizing like, I'm really not good at flirting. I need to learn how to flirt, and not be in the friend zone, because like I could talk to anybody, have a good date because we'd have a good conversation, but was it romantic and was it leading to more? No, it often wasn't. And so then I set out to, teach myself how to flirt, and I really used dating as like my lab, to just, really gain these skills that I needed to actually have the relationship that I wanted to have. And so through that process, I learned so much and I got really good at it. And then I saw so many of my friends and other people that I knew, even though, they might have had lots of relationships and they were maybe dating, they were really comfortable dating, but they were running into a lot of problems that I had run into. And I was like, I've learned a lot. Let me share this knowledge. So I actually started a dating advice blog back in 2008 when I was still practicing law, because it was just like, okay, like this is something I enjoy talking about. And it wasn't until 2013, the year you and I both went to the Matchmaking Institute, that I discovered Paul Brunson, and I started following him on Twitter. And he tweeted one day that he was going to be speaking at the Matchmaking Institute conference. And I was like, there's a Matchmaking Institute?
Right.
And they have conferences? I'm like, what? And I responded to his tweet and I was like, I want to come. And he said, you should come. And I did. And I went to the conference and I met all of these people, Rachel and Lisa and, all Paul and Amy Van Doren and just all of our matchmaking crew.
Amy.
I love her too. I call Amy's my matchmaking BFF.
Awesome.
And I met all these people and I'm like, these are just regular people whose job it is to help people find romantic love. Like what could be more rewarding? What could be more noble? What could be more exciting than this? And so I just dove in. I got my matchmaking certification and I went on Facebook and I said, hey guys, I'm a matchmaker now. Send me your single. And everyone in my life was like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, I just felt really called to do it. And so I started my own matchmaking business right away. And I also started working for Paul and his agency, and I became his lead matchmaker.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, yeah. So I was working with my own individual clients locally in New York, but I was also working with Paul's clients who were all over, not just the country, but also internationally. I remember I had a client in India, I had a client in London, all over the place. And because I had this like real diversity of clients, I was able to really see some larger patterns at work. And I was able to see that some of the things that we assume are going to be like, oh, this person will be really easy to match, or this person is going to be difficult to like, I realized that a lot of those assumptions were incorrect.
Yes.
And it wasn't so much about what's your demographic or, how dateable are you? It really was deeper than that. And it was clear that the people who we could match were people who were really able to look at themselves and to be very self-aware about, okay, what are my expectations of a relationship? Am I able to show up as myself? Am I able to receive love? Because I'm sure a pattern you've seen a million times is somebody who really, really wants a relationship, but they're literally never interested in anybody who's interested in them, for instance. Right. And it's like, okay, that's actually something we need to talk about. And so I realized, we had clients, we would just set them up with like, and I would be so proud. Like, how proud you are when you like really find like,
I've got your match. And then
I've got your match.
The date's a complete flop.
You're like, oh my gosh, this person is like, they check every box. This is like everything that they said they wanted. Like, I can't even believe I found this person. I had enough experiences of clients where we had multiple people where we're like, these are amazing matches, but they were still, it just weren't connecting. The pattern was not breaking. And we were getting the same feedback from their dates over and over and over again. And some people would say, well, that's just them, right? And they just wanted to keep going and just keep meeting more people. And other people would say, okay, wait, maybe there's something I need to look at here. And the ones who were able to do that introspection were the ones who we were able to match. And the ones who were just in this sort of mindset of like, I want what I want. And they weren't willing to see their own role in actually co-creating that. We couldn't match them. And it was really frustrating to work with them. And so I just came to see that the coaching piece was the most important part. Because if you have the right internal mindset and, all the things I talk about in the book, the mindset, the heart set, the soul set, the skill set, then you can be your own matchmaker. And that then doesn't become a problem. But if you're just getting matches and matches and matches, but you're not doing any of that inner work, it's really a crapshoot.
That I appreciate everything you just said, Francesca. That was what I was coming up against. I would have these clients who would come to me and, here's the money, Robin. Find me my person. And I was like, okay, that's all fine and dandy because, of course you're going to pay me for my services. We'd sit down and do like a 2-hour interview. You really want to get to know this person really well and answer all the questions,
Yeah.
But you don't really understand how that person ticks until you actually set them up on the dates and see how they are interacting with the people you're introducing them to. And a lot of times, just like you said, their list is this long and you're delivering, a person that actually does fit that list in some criteria.
Yep.
Hopefully, the most important ones. And then they would show up and not actually be very nice or way too judgmental they're not even being like curious and asking questions to get to know this person in front of them. It's just like they've made these snap judgments. So anyways, that kept happening to me over and over and over again. And the coaching piece was what I got the most success from. And like you said, it's like, if you're working with somebody that's willing to look inside and they're just willing to look inside and be like, okay, these are the things, this is the feedback I was given from my dates.
Yes.
And
maybe I should pay attention.
Up.
Yeah.
Then it's like, actually, I need to take that in and learn from that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So the coaching piece is so much more powerful. Somebody that actually is empowered to do it themselves with your help, your guidance.
Exactly. Yeah.
So your book, Francesca, it is like, you know what? I love the fact that this is such a resource. It is full of coaching. Like this is how to date 101. And you know what? It's not even like the underlying message throughout the whole book is like how to find true love is the title of your book. And really, what is it? You are your greatest true love.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, I think we've talked we've talked about this a little bit in 2024. It's gaining a little bit more momentum as in our collective consciousness, but I don't think people really understand that concept, Francesca.
Yeah.
Yes. And how, if you are not your own first true love, you are going to struggle with this is what you teach in the book. You're always going to be struggling to find the external source to bring you love.
Yes.
Rather than being the love that you were born to be. You say we're all born love geniuses.
Yeah.
And when you're not giving yourself that worth and that like all that true love that you want from somebody else, you're looking for an external source to give that to you. And that's always coming from a place of lack.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I get it. I get that.
I do too.
I get that, and I've been there, right? And I get that.
Me too.
When we say this to people, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. I just want to meet somebody. You're like,
I know, but do people understand it? Like, and you do break it down in the book. But tell me, how do you educate? Like, just give people like just more understanding around that concept and how important it is to really just like saturate yourself and then knowing, like, and become knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, so many angles, Robin.
I know.
So many angles to really lead people to this breakthrough, but really just starting with, getting people to really bring more awareness to what is the relationship I have with myself, right? How do I speak to myself? What, when I meet someone, am I more focused on conforming myself, my behavior, everything so that they like me? Am I more focused on being chosen, or am I more focused on us actually choosing each other? Am I able to actually be my authentic self? And what are the things that show up that prevent me from doing that, right? Like, what is that voice in my head saying? What is that belief that I have about myself? And I think, one of the ways which I can, and, sometimes really get people to see this pretty quickly is to really ask them like, okay, because usually, and I'm sure this is the same case for you, my clients are, they have success in life, right? Like they've achieved goals, professionally and educationally, and, they've done amazing things in the world. And so when I kind of contrast, well, what was the beliefs that what's the belief that you had about yourself when it came to your profession? How do you speak to yourself when it comes to, your goals in this area and that area? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm more encouraging. I'm less judgmental. And I'm like, you see? Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. So you can see, right. And if you can imagine that if somebody was in your position in a career sense, but they're always telling themselves like, oh my God, like I suck, or, this is never going to work out for me, or I'm not good enough, or I'm never going to figure this out. Like, you can see how that would hold them back. Right. And then they can kind of say, oh yeah, I guess like that's, and so they can start to take it a little bit more seriously, as in like, this self-love thing is not just a nice to have, but it's actually an essential to have. And so I think, just really, I mean, the reason that I broke the book down into these 4 parts of like the mindset and the heart set and the soul set and the skill set is because it really does start with the mind, because you just have to kind of wrap your head around like, okay, I actually am able to like even just logically see how thinking that, nobody's ever going to love me for who I am, how that actually might be a problem, right?
Or like, what I use to coach my clients on is really shedding limiting beliefs. Yeah. I know myself, I'm 47 years old, and I have less and less beliefs as I get older. Thank goodness. Yeah. Like I don't need all these beliefs that are no longer serving me, Yeah. Like what I used to believe like 5 years ago, I don't believe anymore in a lot of things. Right. Yes. And I think that comes with wisdom, with age, if you are, paying attention to being more conscious. Yes. But I think with dating, like for instance, you hear these things, there's just such prevailing beliefs, right? That we hear over and over again. There's no, like, where are all the good men? There's no good men. Yeah. Right? Yes. Or for instance, even just a numbers thing. There's way more single women than single men. Well, that might be true statistically where you live. Yeah. That doesn't mean that there's not one that you can absolutely meet and be happy with in your area, your vicinity. Yes. So those are just 2 examples.
Huh. And those are good examples because those are really, really predominant narratives. Yeah. Yeah.
The one thought I had when I was reading your book is just how I really shifted how I was showing up from a much more loving, self-loving place when I was dating and looking for my partner that I have. Yeah. And it was really just showing up as like, Robin, you know what? Like you are like an amazing person. You have so much, good in your life and so much that you have to offer a partner. Yes. Like this person is going to be so lucky to be with you. Yes. Yes. And just coming from that place of like, and I think that is like similar to somebody like going to find a job. I mean, they're highly educated. They've got lots of experience. They're like, I'm going to be a good employee. And they convince that employer, like, you want to hire me. Trust me. I'm going to rock it. Yeah. Right. I remember doing that in interviews when I was looking for jobs. Like, and I was damn straight. I was going to bring a lot to the company because I knew I would. Yes. And so I don't think as a population, we actually go to dates with thinking that and believing that about ourselves. Like I am, and I'm not talking from a grandiosity, like a grandiose place, from a very sincere place. Like I have a lot to offer and let's just see, if this person is at my level. And I don't mean that as like, like we're at different,
it's not, not in a judgmental way. It's just literally, I mean, yes, everything that you're saying. And then because once you have that perspective, then it's like, well, now I'm not focused on, does this person like me? Are they going to choose me? I'm like, whoever gets to be with me is totally winning. So you can just show up and you can be yourself and you can allow yourself to be seen. And then you can also pay attention to how somebody else is showing up. And I think, one of the mindset things that people get so stuck on, and there's so many, but, one of them is like this focus on getting into a relationship versus thinking about what is it actually like to like be in this relationship, be in a relationship with this person? Like, what are we actually co-creating together?
Yes.
And because, I think, like the analogy that I use in the book is like, if you like, so you say you have the list, right? The list of all the things that you want. And so you meet somebody who checks all those boxes, like, okay, that's like the outside of the house. Like that's the curb appeal. That's what it looks like from the outside. But you still care what it's like to live inside of that house, right?
Yes.
So
you give the example of, I can't remember the client's name, and I'm sure the names have
the
been
names
changed
have been
in your book,
changed.
Francesca. Of course. So it doesn't, that's not the point. But you give an example, which I think is just this common thing. Okay, you've got your list. He needs to be 6'2" or 6 feet or over. Okay. Yeah. He needs to have a university degree or a college degree. He has to have wealth, be established in his career.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 3, 4, 5. Okay, the list goes on, right? So you find, or this person finds that person, they fit all that criteria, and guess what? They're terrible to be with. They're not kind to other people right? They're not spending time with you. You're not a priority in their life. They're working all the time. They're not involved with your children. I mean, you could just talk about just like the person's character, which is so much more important, and their values, and consistency, all the things that are so important to maintain a healthy relationship compared to all that superficial external stuff that a lot of people think that's what I need to focus on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, there's something that, I always just tell my clients, I'm like, you can have a list of 1,000 dream traits that you want in a partner. That's fine. Make that list, knock yourself out. But at least also, first of all, realize you're not going to get all of those things in one person, because that's not a person. That's a unicorn.
Right. Or AI, right?
That's AI, right? That's an AI chatbot that you design to your liking. But also, like, really make sure that everything that's on that list actually corresponds to the actual relationship that you're going to have with that person. And even something like, like you talked about, like a college degree, very, very common, requirement for the types of clients that we work with. Nothing wrong with that. I have nothing against college degrees. I have a college degree. I have a law degree. I'm not nothing against it. But why do you want somebody with a college degree?
Why is that so important?
Like, literally just why? And it's not to try to talk you out of it, but it's just to understand why that's actually important. Because when I start asking people just why, they might say, oh, well, because then they'll be on my level intellectually. I'm like, okay, so is intellectual stimulation with your partner, is that something that's really important to you? They'll be like, yeah, that's something that's really important to me. I'm like, okay, so intellectual stimulation is what you care about. Because there are plenty of people who have advanced degrees who you're not going to find intellectually stimulating. Right?
Absolutely true. Right.
Right. So if you just know that I'm only going to be with somebody who I find intellectually stimulating because that's one of my core relationship needs, then I can just meet people and just determine, like, are we able to have that, that intellectual exchange that I care about? And if they happen to have a college degree, great. And if they don't, that's also great, because that's not the point.
Yes.
And so just really getting people to, like, actually just take a real look at why I want this thing that I want. And so much of it is based on just the conditioning and just the ideas that you've been sold of who you should be with and what that should look like. And it's like, once you realize, like, no, my relationship is something that I have to live inside of every day. Right. Mm-hmm. And so a degree hangs on the wall, but what is it actually like to be with this person? And how am I leaning into these things that I say that are so important? How am I a match for these things that I say that are so important? And if they do actually have to do with our relationship, then let me focus on not just the trait that you check on a list, but what's actually underneath it, and focus on that, because that's what's going to bring you to the most harmonious and soul-filling and juicy and romantic partnerships, when you're focusing on what it actually means to be with that person versus an idea.
Right. And so when you are sitting down with somebody and going through, they've given you the list, and then you're like, okay, over time, you're helping them see that that's not, we're looking, like, if it's very externally focused, we're going to bring it inside. Yeah. So for instance, like, I want intellectual stimulation. I want to have, like, deep, meaningful conversations with the person I'm going to share a lot of intimate time with, and my partner, like, we have that. We have, like, incredible, meaningful conversations and talk about, like, and you, like, so it's what you help. There's a great list that you have in your book called It's Romantic Values, Determining Romantic Values. Yeah. I love it. And I think there's, like, I don't know, maybe 20 that you list. And of course, it's not exhaustive. And you want to choose, like, 5. I chose, like, 10. I'm like, I want these 10 out of the 20. Okay. And I have those, which is great. But it's like, you want to have joy. I want to have joy with my partner. I want to be with somebody that has a growth mindset.
Yes.
That is actually like their lives are dedicated to growing and learning.
Yes.
Right. And changing.
Yes.
Like, because that is like, I know that's that's important to me. And I want that to be important to my partner.
Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
Like family and friends, like just our relationships are so very important to us. And if he's not showing that same value or demonstrating the same value in his life, well, that's not going to work for me.
It's not going to work. You're not going to be happy in that relationship. It's not going to be fulfilling. And you'll be settling for so much less than you deserve and is actually available to you, which goes back to the kind of the scarcity thing and, the percentages and how many people this. And I always, I give this example in the book, which is like, I'm a Black woman talking about Black women, and there's tons of data. Black women are the least favorited on apps, the least this, the least that. And so like a lot of Black women have really embodied that, right? And I just use this as an example. Even if you're not a Black woman, what is it for you? Maybe it's, I'm a single woman in this city and there's no men here, or, I'm a gay man in this place and there's no, so you can insert yourself in whatever that disempowering story is based on data and statistics. But I remember being single and dating and just being like, I'm not going to take this on as I'm not saying it's not true. Like maybe those numbers are true, but what is the universe that I believe that I live in? Do I believe that because I'm Black, I don't get to have the love that I want? Like, why would I believe that? And if there are people who don't want to date me because I'm a Black woman, guess what? I don't want to date them either. And so let me actually just focus on what I do want and connecting with the people that I do want versus, this story about how hard it's going to be for me. And that always worked for me. And I never had any trouble finding people to date me, I never had any trouble. And so I think there is a piece of it. And, and this is why I included the part in the book really about having this connection to a higher love and, having faith and, and having some connection to like, I am able to, like, these statistics are not my destiny, right? Like,
exactly.
The possibility of love and the abundance of love is far greater than the fact that, there's only, there's no single people in my city. Like, well, let's just put that aside, right? And what's your assignment? Like, you're not, what can you do to become more aligned with the love that you want? What can you do to be more determined, to be more open, to be like, okay, well, I don't see a lot of single people in my city, but I have to believe that this desire that I have within me to have love and partnership, it's not just there to torture me, right? So,
right. I do believe that our desires, when they're coming from a heart-centered place, like finding a partner, it's there for a reason. It's meant to be, and it's just gonna, like, I really like the fact that you break it down, Francesca, between your department and the universe's department.
Yes.
So, like you say, a higher or more advanced level relationship is always possible, whether people realize it or not. Accessing it requires a level of intentionality and personal responsibility. So let's talk about that, because there's the universe that is, I believe, always on our side and working on our behalf. Our minds trick us and we create these barriers. So it's like, okay, that's our job. Our personal responsibility is to change our mindset, which is the first part of your book, right?
Yeah.
And clear our hearts, forgiveness, all these are important things, right? That are holding you back from moving forward. And then the universe also is behind you.
Yeah.
So how can you, with your intentionality and personal responsibility, what is our department compared to the universe's department?
Yeah. So number one, and I'm so glad that that resonates with you.
Oh, really? I totally did. You're speaking my language.
I'm so happy. And the first thing, and this going back to like you being your own greatest true love, right? Is okay.
Yeah.
I'm very focused on meeting someone else, but first what's my relationship with myself? Right. And what is my ability, and I have this self-love formula that I talk about in the book, which is, how compassionate am I towards myself versus judgmental and shaming? How much do I actually believe that I am worthy just because I exist versus how much do I think I have to jump through all these hoops and do all these other things to be worthy of love? How much am I able to give myself credit for the things that I do? I mean, It's astounding to me how many people are constantly doing difficult things and never giving themselves any credit for it. And so it just becomes this endless hamster wheel of like, not good enough, not good enough. I have to keep doing, I have to keep doing, what is your self-care? Do you actually create time and space in your life to do things that actually nourish you and your spirit? And, and what is your level of gratitude for the person, the unique, one of a kind miracle that you are? No one else in this world has ever been or will ever be just like you. And that's pretty wild and pretty amazing, right?
It is.
And if we can start to see ourselves that way and like be like, oh wow, like that, wait, I'm the unicorn, right? And have gratitude and appreciation for that. If you start to really focus on, and that's why I'm very focused on, really putting these pillars of self-love into practice, then you're like, okay, and you don't have to be perfect. Doesn't mean we never have a self-judging thought or anything like that. Yeah. Thank God we never have to be perfect in anything. Okay. Love is a perfection. We don't have to be perfect. But the more you can normalize just that more holistically loving relationship within yourself, the less that you're going to have that voice and that doubt telling you you're never going to find anybody. It's going to take a miracle. Who's ever going to want you at, your age or your weight or you're this or you're that or, oh, I'm too much. And so nobody's ever going to want to, who's ever going to, like all of these narratives that we tell ourselves, if you can start to really truly appreciate yourself for who you are, that clears so much noise and that clears so much static. And then you can start to say, okay, well, now what is my next best step based on where I am right now in my life and on this love journey and where I want to be? I can't snap my fingers and materialize, the perfect person tomorrow. First of all, there's no perfect person, but, and, a really great, ideal partner for me. Yep. I don't have control over that timing, but I have control over, how I show up in the world. Right. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I need to slow down. Maybe I need to go more places outside of my comfort zone. Maybe I need to get more comfortable flirting. Maybe I need to be able to receive compliments from people and not deflect them and shut them down, right? Maybe I need to actually be open to expressing my true self. Maybe I need to get better at dating. I mean, one of the things when you were talking about, I was thinking when you were talking about how intellectual stimulation is so important to you, and it is to me as well. The number of people who, and I would hear this a lot back in the matchmaking days, especially when I was getting feedback from the dates, who just go on dates and they have these super boring conversations.
Right. How are you showing up? Like, are you actually showing up intellectually? Like, if that's really important to you, then are you asking interesting, thought-provoking questions?
Yeah. And so people are sitting on, they're sitting on dates and they're talking about their jobs and like, and then they're like, yeah, there was no chemistry. It's like, yeah, you sat and talked about your jobs that neither one, you don't even like your job. Like, what was the point? Right. Like, what was the point of that? Right. And so even just that's a level of intentionality of like, okay, I'm going on a date and I'm not just going to sit and do idle small talk. And if the conversation is going in a direction that I'm like, I have the ability to pivot that conversation, and I have the ability to ask deeper questions and see if that person can meet me there.
Right.
I have the ability to be more honest about the things that I care about or that I'm into, and not be like, oh my God, they're going to judge me or think I'm weird. Because know that the person for you is going to be like, that's awesome that you're into that. Even if they aren't, and maybe especially because they aren't, they'll think it's especially awesome. They'll be like, wow, tell me more about that. And so that intentionality is just on so many levels. Like, what is my intention to have that relationship with myself? And especially I'd say for people who have a pattern of only really being into people who aren't into them, which is a really common pattern, right? And so it's always this chasing, it's always this seeking approval from somebody who's not totally available, who's not, really into you. That is an inside job. If you change your relationship with yourself, you will no longer be attracted to that dynamic.
Yes.
You just won't. It'll lose its appeal. And then when people show up and they actually can see you and they appreciate you and they're into you for who you are, then it's like, okay, yeah, like, why wouldn't they be? It feels normal to you. It doesn't feel like this foreign thing, like, oh my God, why does this person think I'm so great? It'd be like, yeah, yes, I met somebody awesome who sees how awesome I am. And it would just be a natural outcome. And yeah, so I just think that the more, people can really just ask themselves, Well, okay. What, based on, like I said, based on where I am right now on this love journey and where I want to be, what might be my next best step? What might be my
Yes.
next best step?
Yeah. You said yourself, Francesca, that you had a lot of practice dating and you were taking it as like the grounds for like building skills. And you talk about that in the book. And I think there's so much pressure that people are putting on, all right, this is going to like, okay, you know, you're setting your intention to meet the love of your dreams, right? And okay, this might be the guy, might be the girl, might be the person, right? Yeah. You go on that date and like already that pressure, that's pretty freaking big, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I think even shifting that is like, let's lighten this up, people. Like, this is an opportunity for you to meet somebody new. That person may not be your person, but maybe they could introduce you to their cousin. I don't know. Like, have a great, make a new friend. I'm gonna meet somebody new today and just take it take it as it is, and just like I think there's just we have to relieve the pressure a bit on dating.
Agreed.
And look at it more like you talk about in your book around. Your dating is helping you. Dating skills will help you build your love skills.
Yes.
So it's like, this is skill building. Yeah. It's not just like hoping that, you know, this is the one. I mean, maybe that person will be.
Maybe, but maybe something that you learned from that interaction is actually going to take you a step closer.
Yes.
To finding the person who is the one.
Yes, because you also say, which I think is just awesome. It's so true. It's like, you could be meeting somebody. Readiness is such an important thing, right?
Yes.
And that's out of your control. Are you ready? You can do a lot of things in your life to make sure that you are ready and preparing yourself for like a beautiful relationship. But you could be meeting somebody on a date that actually they have all the things. They are just an incredible person. You have great chemistry. They have just, you share a lot of romantic values, but guess what? Maybe they're not actually ready. Yeah. So readiness is another piece that I think. I was talking to my best friend about this yesterday, Francesca, and I want to share this story because she was dating this man for, I'm going to say a few months. I think they went on, 5, 6, 7, maybe more dates. He definitely was like, they had so much chemistry. They had intellectual stimulation. They had great conversation. They both loved to dance. They're both like just, you know, full of energy and life and joy. And, you know, like it seemed from what she was telling me that they had similar energy, like, you know, in just showing up in life.
Yep.
And she said it was just great, beautiful, but they were at different places in their lives. That's it, right?
Yeah.
So he and she both decided, okay, this isn't, he had a young daughter. He has a job that he takes away from his hometown on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't prioritizing her.
Yeah.
In this whole dynamic of his life.
Yeah.
And she could feel that. And she knew that, right? It's like, she was like, I actually want to be with somebody that has time to spend with me on the weekends.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't think this is minor, right?
Yeah.
These are not this is not aligned, right? So they both parted ways. And it's interesting because she had coffee with one of his friends. And he was like, they're a common friend. And he was like, that man is so great. He's amazing. Like and she's like, I know, like I dated him for a couple of months. Like, I know the quality of this person. And he's like, you know, he just doesn't have his priorities straight yet. He's not in this part of his life where he can really focus on a partnership. That's the Miss Man's perspective.
Yeah.
And I said, you have to listen to that, Kirst. Like you really do, because as much as he's got all these other things that work for you, the things that don't you can't just wait for him to come around or hope he changes. And I think we do that as humans too.
We do that a lot. Yeah. In dating. Yeah. Especially when you do have so many other ways in which you're compatible that you're just like, I just wanted to work out with this person. I just want to work out. But it's like, you know, that's why I talk in the book about ready, able, willing, and really using this framework to understand like
ready, able, willing.
Yeah. Right. So raw. Right. And so the number one question is just like, it's not even that you necessarily have to ask this question, though you might, you know, which is just like, well, what beyond you and me, just what are you ready for in your life right now, you know, in terms of a relationship? Because I think we take it so personally and we have this whole like fairy tale, you know, romantic comedy indoctrination to tell us that like, if you're just amazing enough, the most unavailable person will suddenly become available and choose you. Like
right. And it's just not going to happen.
Like, that's not how it works, right? Like people, yes, they do change and they do grow, but they do that on their own time, and they may never change or grow in a way that you're actually wanting them to. So you are gambling so much of your heart and your emotion and your energy on something really basic. Like the analogy that I always use, it's like if you were in the market to buy a house, would you just like go randomly into houses and be like, I don't know if this house is for sale, but
exactly.
I really like it. Like, let me just start measuring for the drapes, and let me start, like, even if you don't know yet if you want to buy the house, you would just be like, I'm sorry, before I start walk, like, is this house actually for sale? Like, it's, and honestly, just like asking a question, just like, where are you in your life right now? Like, in terms of a relationship, what are you looking for? And if somebody is like, I don't know, or maybe like, that's not ready. It's not.
It's absolutely not ready. And if somebody, there's two things I wanted to say about this. The first thing is, like, if somebody, like, people are going to tell you or show you.
They are going to show
and
you.
Believe them.
Yes.
Believe them, right?
Yes.
Believe somebody's actions and believe their words.
Yes.
And because they're going to show you or tell you, and you just have to believe it rather than trying to change it or trying to morph it or somehow manipulate it, because that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're just hoping, and like, I don't know, it doesn't work. It's working against you.
It's working against you. Yeah. Yeah. And that's when you get to the able piece, which is like, and that's not a simple question, but that's when you're really showing up. Like, is this person actually demonstrating? Because some people can say, I'm super ready. I'm ready. I want a relationship. Okay, great. Doesn't mean it's 100% true. They could be lying to themselves or to you, right? But then you get into the able, and then it's like, okay, but is this person actually able to show up for me, right? Are they consistent? Are they able to co-create the kind of dynamic that I want in a relationship? And that's something that you have to just be honest with yourself about. And again, not think that like, but if I'm just amazing enough, then they're suddenly going to like change and transform, and now they're going to be able to communicate. And, like, is there progress? Like, does that appear to be happening, or is that a fantasy that you're holding on to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the willing piece, that's the part of like, they like you, they're into you, they're putting in effort to move things forward with you. And sometimes they're all willing and they're ready, and they're not at all ready, and they're not at all able. And that can be really confusing, right?
Yes.
And so it's like, well, why is this person pursuing me? Why are they spending all this time with me? They know that I want a relationship, so that must mean that they do as well. No, that doesn't mean that. That just means that they want to get from you what they want to get from you, right? And so a more empowered approach to dating is to live in reality and to really understand, like, oh, if I'm looking for a committed, healthy, committed, fulfilling partnership, if I'm looking for that true love relationship, like all of these things need to be aligned. They need to be ready, they need to be able, and they need to be willing. And I also need to be all of those things. So what is my ability? What's my readiness? And what's my ability to express that? What's my ability to show up as the co-creator of the type of relationship that I want to have? Am I sitting back and I'm expecting them to do all the work and I'm not doing anything? And what's my willingness to actually put in effort and to be more vulnerable and to move things forward? And so it's once you start to take that personal responsibility, and then you're also being really realistic about how the other people are showing up, it becomes so clear. And so much of the confusion that people have, like, oh, why is this happening? And why did this? And do you want their answer? Because I can tell you it's very clear.
It doesn't make it easy, Francesca. That's the thing, right?
It doesn't. Yeah.
Walking away from somebody that, let's say you've had like, some excellent experiences with and shared a lot with and been intimate with.
Yeah.
And it's realizing you're not on the same page. Like you say, a lot of people and many of your clients will experience a disconnect between what they want and what they are receiving.
Yes.
And it's like when you actually acknowledge that disconnect, hopefully you will take that personal responsibility and do something about it.
Yeah.
Because either you can work together with this person and you guys can change that dynamic, or you have to walk away. It doesn't make it easy, but it's the right thing.
It's the right thing. And it's not easy at all. And whenever, any of my clients do that, I'm like so proud of them. And I'm like, please give yourself credit for this, because this, like, that is how you put self-love into action. It is a highly loving thing to do for yourself, to say, as attracted as I am to this person, as much as there are elements that are so like juicy and wonderful here, ultimately, I know that this relationship is not what I want. and I'm going to choose myself, and I'm going to actually walk away from this person, like that is such a powerful, courageous thing to do. And when people do it, like I want you to like give yourself all the credit, throw a party, high five yourself, and just know that like you have just moved yourself a step closer to the love that you want by saying no to what you actually don't want. And that is what I really, really want people to embrace and understand about this love journey that we're all on. You know, it is here to teach us how to be more loving towards ourselves and more loving towards other people, how to give love and how to receive love. And if we are not progressing in our ability to give love to ourselves and to others and to receive love from ourselves and others, then we're going to get stuck and we're going to struggle. And the more you're able to see like, oh, there's a bigger picture here, and this is a chance for me to grow more loving towards myself, then you actually do become less attached to every individual outcome because you're able to see that it is part of this larger journey and it is leading you ultimately to that true love relationship.
Yeah. So, Francesca, could we just spend some time going through the part of your book, which I really, so Kirsten and I were just like going through your 4 dating archetypes.
Yes.
Okay. And I was like, okay, Kirsten, which are you? And like, we're kind of guessing, right? And then we're like talking about other friends. We're like, oh, we think she's this. And like, it was kind of fun. It was very fun, actually. So you broke down how people date, because there are, of course, there's patterns in our behavior, right?
Yes.
So can you go through the 4 and just a brief explanation, and then what, there is a mantra on the how you would actually look at things differently so that you're not working against yourself because of this pattern, right?
Yes. So I'm so glad you love the archetypes.
They're great.
Yes. So, it's something that, just having, like I've been doing this now for 12 years, right? And so you see these patterns, and I realized like I could talk to somebody for not a long time and really see where they kind of fall, sort of what their pattern is and what their immediate challenge and their assignment is. And that's how the archetypes, it kind of just like naturally arose. Because in my mind, I'd be like, this person's totally an avoider. Be like, oh, this person. And then I was like, wait, there's something here.
Yes, totally.
So the 4 archetypes are avoider, looper. I'm doing them in the right order. Avoider, looper, surfer, and sailor. And so if you think about so there's this concept that I have that I talk about in the book, which is love confidence. And love confidence is basically how much you believe that you can handle love. You can handle finding it. You can handle keeping it. You can handle navigating the highs and lows of it. Like, how confident are you in that? And you can sort of plot these different archetypes on that scale. And I always like to say to people, like, your archetype is not your destiny, right? It's really more of a phase that you are in right now. And so if you want to be in a different phase, you have the power to do that. You just need to bring some understanding of like what's kind of keeping you stuck where you don't want to be. So first is the avoider. And the avoider, the name says it all, right? So the avoider is somebody who really avoids dating. And this is somebody who they want love, they want a relationship, but they do not date. And they may not date at all. They may, every now and again, they might download a dating app and, get really freaked out really quickly and delete it. But they're not moving forward in this love journey, and they're really mostly not dating. Some people, when they're really, really struggling in an avoider phase, they don't even talk about dating. I know, like, as a matchmaker, one of the things that we used to do was we would get feedback from people in our clients' lives. So we would have them identify 2 to 5 people who we could actually talk to about, like, oh, so tell me about Robin and that.
Yeah.
And I would have so many people, and this is like their best friends, their siblings, I mean, these are people they've chosen, right, for me to speak to. And these people would say, I had no idea she was this interested in a relationship. Like,
because she doesn't talk.
Like, I thought, I'm so glad she's working with you, but I had no idea. I just thought that she didn't care about relationships and dating, and she was focused on this or focused on that. And so I think that's a classic avoider. It's like, you're so avoidant that people who are close to you don't even know that this is something that you actually want, because you have that sort of, you're holding that back, right? And so the good news about being in that avoider phase is that as soon as you start dating, you're not an avoider anymore.
Right.
Right.
And consistently.
And you start to say, okay, I'm ready to like embark on this journey. Just like I did when I was like, wait, okay, I need to learn how to date. I'm ready to embark on this journey of really getting some clarity here and getting some confidence here and developing some skill here. So that's the avoider. And I think, the mantra of the avoider is just like, it's safe for me, right? It's safe for me to actually give and receive love. Like I can do this.
That's right. Right.
And then you have the looper. And so the looper is when you're in that phase where you're stuck in a dating pattern that just keeps repeating. I've been all of these, by the way, which is also why I can.
Yeah. The funny thing is I can see myself in a few of them for sure.
Yeah,
it depends on where you're at in your life.
Exactly.
Right? Oh, right.
Yeah. So and you don't have to go through all of them. I always tell people I'm like, it's not necessary that you go through all of these. Like you can,
these are not stages.
You can skip some of these steps, but I happen to have gone through all of them. So that looper phase is when you're just like, you're dating, you're putting yourself out there, but there's just some issue that just keeps on coming up. And you're just like, like your dating life just feels like Groundhog Day. You're like, how does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening? And so people in that looper phase, it's really important that you start to bring some awareness to like, okay, I'm half the equation in here, right? So even if I don't fully understand why this keeps happening, I am the common denominator. So let me slow things down and bring my attention to how I am contributing to this. Am I ignoring my intuition? Am I shutting down? Am I attracted to people who aren't into me and I feel that I have to chase them, right? Like what are those things that are, what is your department, right? That's actually contributing to this larger pattern, which is, an important thing to recognize. And then, and I can't remember offhand what the looper mantra is, but
I have it.
Oh, okay.
I have it.
What is it?
My romantic history is not my destiny.
Yes.
I have the power to break old patterns and co-create lasting love.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't have to, you have the power.
Yeah.
And you can get out of this loop of, you think is repeating the same lesson over, or meeting the same person, just different clothes.
Yes.
Over and over again.
Yes.
By changing how you're showing up, by changing your belief systems, right? And choosing like another part of the book, which is not, this is not part, but it is so good. It's about helping people avoid bad dates.
Yes.
This is a skill.
It is
right?
A skill.
It's like,
yeah.
And it's like, if that person is like showing up, on Messenger, or just in your telephone conversation before you even meet them for the first time, as just like totally avoiding you or not giving you the time of day, and you're having to like, you give an example of that person who she was doing everything in her power to make this date happen with this guy.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of giving her breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Like you could see it, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, I can't go for dinner with you on Saturday. But I am available at like 4:00 before I go for dinner with my friends and family.
Basically.
Right? And she's like, oh my, okay, well, I get off at 3:30 for work. So, okay, I'm going to drive across town. Okay, I'll meet him at 4:00. And then she shows up at 4:00 and he arrives 25 minutes late. Okay, give me a break, buddy. Right? In the meantime, she's all sweaty in the bathroom and she's like, oh my, you could like trying to put herself together after working all day. Like she's bending over backwards to accommodate this guy.
Yeah.
Because she's like thinking, right? And I sit down and he's like not even giving her any sort of interest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, Venmo me.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I gotta go. Bye.
Like everything in his actions are showing you that he is totally not interested and that you're not a priority. And it's just like, so you give skills in the book around avoiding bad dates. I really love that. That's it. That's awesome. So I just want to put that in there because there's a whole section about that. So I just like, that's awesome too.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. It's so important. Whenever people tell me, oh my God, terrible thing happened, you'll never believe it. I'm like, I will believe it.
You can avoid.
And I'm like, I will believe
some
it.
Of these bad scenarios.
But it's always,
right?
There was always signs. There's always signs. There's always some sign that you overlooked, either willfully or not. But
so that's an example in the looper that might not be like, you're not catching the signs.
Yeah.
You're not paying attention to the signs or you're dismissing the signs.
Yes, exactly.
So maybe,
okay. Yeah. So let's look at reality, right? Yeah. Yeah. And this goes back to the self-love, right? So you be compassionate towards yourself as you're saying, oh, okay, wait a second. I'm not looking at the signs, but I want to do better, and I'm actually willing to do that, right?
Yes,
such a powerful place to be. Okay, so then next is the surfer, and the surfer is someone who is just driven by chemistry, and surfers have a great ability to meet people, and it's sexy and it's fiery, and there's that instant attraction, and it's romance, and they just dive in. They're like, this is the wave. This is my wave. And they just go for it.
Totally. Yes. They're surfing the wave.
They're surfing the wave. And look, you can get lucky, right? Because sometimes when you have that instant, intense chemistry, it is the sign of something lasting. but oftentimes it's not. It's a very unreliable indicator of long-term compatibility. And so surfers tend to overvalue that instant chemistry, and they think that if they have it, that means this is the person for them. And, you know, my advice to surfers is always to, first of all, be honest about what your pattern is, because if every time you meet somebody that you're intensely attracted to, you've decided this is the one for me, it's like, well, what about all the other ones, right? And so maybe there's actually something more going on here. And just because your chemistry radar is leading you into a certain dynamic does not mean that's actually the dynamic that you want to have. So this is also about like breaking patterns and just slowing things down, right? And so like you can be excited, you can be attracted. You do not have to overcommit. You do not have to instantly decide, I'm going to go all in and just give. Like, you can just slow it down, because if they're your person, they're going to be your person 3 months from now. They're going to be your person.
They're going to be your person
a year from now. They're going to be, you know, so like, what is the rush? So just really slowing things down, not overvaluing that instant chemistry. And especially if that instant chemistry in the past has consistently taken you down a road that you don't want to go down again. That's what a sign to, like, this is not a green light. For some people, it actually might be a red light. Right. And so that attraction and that chemistry will change when you start to change and you start to recognize what the pattern is about and start to bring some awareness. And this doesn't mean you have to spend years in therapy. Literally, it can be as simple as like, oh, I see that if somebody is like not that into me, I see that, well, this is not really so much the case in the surfer, but maybe like a surfer example, this would be, I know that every time I meet somebody and we have this intense chemistry, it flames out after a couple of months, right? And so if you're like, all right, so there's some part of me that is actually drawn to people who want that falling in love energy, but they don't have actually the skills and the commitment and the readiness to build relationships over time. So how can I start to recognize that? And how can I start to be more discerning in who I'm actually just jumping into a relationship with? So that's what I want my surfers to do. So do you have the surfer mantra?
Yes. So yeah, I do have the surfer mantra. It is safe for me to give and receive with a compatible partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't always, and so when I was telling you earlier about my best friend, and so she's like, I'm such a surfer. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I get it, right? Because I could see that in her.
Yeah.
And just going back to that example of this man that she broke it off with.
Yes.
And it was,
proud of you, Kirsten. Good job.
Yes, I know. Way to go, girlfriend. And you know what? But she was taking her time and getting to know him. And it was at that period where they just came to this precipice where it's just like understanding that he's not going to be there for me in the way I need a partner to be, and I want a partner to be. And he was in agreement. Like, I'm just not in a place where I can give you what you need. Right. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So that's not, none of this is bad, because I just think she learned so much more about, like, this is what she's getting closer and closer and honing in on, like, this is so important to me. And in my next partner, I'm going to look for that. I'm going to make sure that is a match.
Yes.
So so that's all good. And they shared a lot of great experiences together, and they could be friends. You know, I just think that all of this is for the good.
I agree. It's all for good. And even, especially if it's been a while since you did have that connection with somebody, it's like to be reminded, to be like, oh, right, like I can have excitement and romance and fun and great conversations. Yes. And that's activating, and that's good, you know, and it does get you closer. It's like, okay, that's not the only person in the world you can have that energy with. So
definitely not.
Now get excited about having that energy with somebody who's also on the same page as you.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be even more amazing.
Like, totally. It's just all, it's so good. Okay,
So last but not least is the sailor. And so the sailor is somebody who is one of these people who I used to look at and be like, how do they do that? Which is basically just someone who is their ability to get into committed relationships is just it's very natural for them. They are attracted to relationship-minded people. They're, you know, we might call them serial monogamists. You know,
I think I'm a sailor. I think I was a sailor.
I'm definitely a sailor now. But, you know, I wasn't always, right? Because I've been through all these phases, right? And so sailors are very empowered in that way of just knowing, like, yeah, I can absolutely handle a relationship. I am a relationship person. They see themselves that way. They're only attracted to and attract people who also see themselves that way. So getting into relationships is something that's very easy and very natural for them. Now, having said that, I've worked with a lot of sailors who are like, I've been in relationships, nonstop for the last 30 years, but they haven't necessarily been the right relationships. Like now I realize there's other things that I want. So, so it's not to say that they've always chosen the exact most compatible partners for them, but just that baseline of ability to just know, like, I can handle a relationship. They have that very strongly.
But I think what you said there hit the nail on the head, where you could be that person that's like, okay, I can meet people and I can get into a relationship, but is that a healthy relationship? Is that a good, solid relationship that you want to be in?
Yeah.
And is there give and take? Is there reciprocity? Is all of those things, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So the mantra for the sailor is, I can effortlessly attract the relationship of my dreams.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Not just a relationship, but the right relationship. Yes.
The right relationship.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, Francesca, like, I just really loved our time to get together today, and loved reading your book and learning from you. And I've already talked to my friends about your book, and my friends that are single looking for love. And they are very intentional about it, and they're very self-aware, and they're doing all the things to, these are friends of mine, my best friends that have been married before. They want their next partnership to be all the things, And so I'm so proud of them for being so persistent and just sticking with it, even though it's just like freaking hard, you know?
I know. It can be so hard.
Dating can be just being realistic about that too. It can be very hard to date.
It can be really hard.
Keep picking up your bootstraps, and like, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Like, gosh darn it, like 2 months later and you're breaking up with somebody, you're like, oh, damn, not again.
Yeah. Well, I'm really hoping that this book will help people to make it easier and to
that's exactly
just
what
avoid so many of those pitfalls that are so common, that feel inevitable, but actually it's like, wait, no, they're not. You don't actually have to keep doing that. Like, you can break that pattern. You can actually enjoy dating. You can use it to, again, develop this better relationship with yourself, to develop these love skills that you need, to be more intentional, to be more self-aware, to be more realistic, to not be passive. Because I think we're just taught that love is something that's like, you just have to get lucky and da-da-da and da-da. And it's you can make your own luck in love, and you just have to know how to do it. And I know that's the part that's really hard, and that's why we've been doing this for 13 years.
Yes, that's what you've put in your book, is so much wisdom, and there's a lot of guidance that you can follow, and like you said, to help avoid the pitfalls, but also just lead you, like, I think, just in a more direct path to finding your person.
Yes.
So kudos to you, Francesca. And I pray that your book finds, into the hands and ears and hearts of all the people that will benefit from it. Well, I really do.
Thank you so much, Robin. I so appreciate you and your support and your kind words. And this conversation has been awesome. So thank you.
It has been. I'm going to close with a blessing with your sentiments from your book, what you wrote. So
yay.
May we remember, you have an inner power to choose love again and again. Your heart will grow braver and more skilled at love as you go. Isn't that the truth? May we remember that fear can only be transcended through the power of love, which includes knowing yourself. And may we cooperate with the universe and do our part to find true love through the power of intention, gratitude, surrender, and serendipity. The universe will do the rest to bring you together with the right people. And I think that's true in all aspects of our lives. So just your book is also so soulful. We did talk about that, but I think it's just this higher love that we can all have, and where we are from.
Yes.
It's attainable for all of us. So thank you, Francesca Hogi.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you so much for being here with us. Let's Talk Love is brought to you by Real Love Ready and hosted by Robin Ducharme. If you'd like to keep learning with us, visit realloveready.com for more resources and tools to boost your relational skills and get better at love. If this podcast has resonated with you, it would mean the world to us if you could take just 30 seconds to do these 3 things. Follow or subscribe. Never miss an episode by hitting the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite app. This makes sure new episodes show up automatically for you, and it helps us get more visibility so more people can find our show. Leave a rating and review. Your feedback means everything to us. By leaving a 5-star rating and a thoughtful review, you're not only showing your support, but also helping others discover the podcast. Share an episode that really spoke to you with someone in your life, whether it's a friend, partner, or family member. Your recommendation could just be what they need to hear. We at Real Love Ready acknowledge and express gratitude for the Coast Salish people, the stewards of the land on which we work and play, and encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge and express gratitude for those that have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you live on as well. Many blessings and much love.